Alright everyone, this is Zero Budget Geek and welcome to Camp Grizzly, a survival horror board game. It's 1979 and the counselors at Camp Grizzly are enjoying Jody's guitar by the campfire. Chet left to check the generator an hour ago. He should have been back by now. Then he appeared, the man in the bear mask. With a subtle nod, he tossed Chet's severed head into the campfire before splitting Becky in half. Who, if anyone, will survive the night in Camp Grizzly? So we're going to be playing this game solo, but we have the board set up for a normal game and we're going to be playing with 3 characters. Our first counselor is Karen. She is a mentor. Campers in your care may re-roll their special skills once per turn. She is also inspired. Karen begins the game with 2 additional survival cards. We also have CJ. He is a coach. Other counselors in your cabin receive +1 to their fight rolls. He is also a sprinter. When moving, CJ may discard a survival card to move 1 more space. And we have Tracy. Of course, she is the Scream Queen. When Otis stalks, you may lure him in your direction with a die roll. Our objective is to survive long enough to complete one of these 4 random finales. Each finale has a number of objective tokens that we must collect in order to attempt to complete it. Once we collect all the tokens of a finale, we must go to the appropriate location with the tokens in order to complete it. The objectives are hidden around the board in these mystery tokens. Meanwhile, Otis, the killer, will be stalking us the entire game. He has a stalk of 2, which means he moves 2 spaces on his turn. He has attack of a D4, and he does 1 damage when he attacks. These stats are guaranteed to increase throughout the game. So we have our characters lined up here. The cards underneath their character card are the cards in their hand, and we just have them all laid out here. Any cards above their character card are permanent cards that are attached to them, and then this is the order that the characters are going to play each round, and then Otis will take his turn. Here's the body count track. We're going to track the number of casualties with this body count marker here. For this game, it's going to start at 1, which is why Otis starts with a stalk of +1, so that's why stalk is 2. So it starts there, and it's going to gradually increase throughout the game. So Karen's going to take the first turn. Now the first thing you do on your turn is movement. Now movement is tied to your health. So as we can see right here, Karen's movement will be a 3. Now Karen was fortunate enough to draw the athletic card in her starting cards, so she may move an additional space during her move phase. All the counselors start in the same start location, which is the campfire, and they're going to move from there. So let's decide where Karen's going to move. Each squared off area designates spaces that players can move to. Now these brown trails right here are not spaces, but they designate which spaces are adjacent to which, so you know where you can travel through. Green trails like this are nature trails, which are much more difficult to traverse. So Karen has a move of 4, so we're going to go ahead and start moving her towards the commons. So she's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Now we went to the commons because one of the nearest spaces that has an objective token, but we were just shy of grabbing it. Right now, Otis isn't anywhere on the board, so we don't know where he is. He could pop up anywhere. After your move phase is the cabin phase. This is where you usually draw a cabin card. Now it happens most of the time. The only time you wouldn't draw a cabin card is if you happen to end your turn on one of the objective tokens, and then instead of drawing a cabin card, you can pick up the token without spending any actions. But because we didn't do that, Karen's gonna have to draw a cabin card, and it is a plot twist, the timeout chair. +1 body count. Discard a random survival card and you are horrified. Now Karen only has 2 cards, and losing either one of them is pretty bad because they're both good. So we're just gonna go ahead and actually use one. It's called Close Call. It is a single use card, so we discard after you use it, and it says play after a counselor draws a cabin card. Ignore and discard it. So we'll play this card in order to stop that last cabin card. CJ is next, and I think I'm gonna have him try to make his way down here to this other objective token. He has a movement of 3, so let's move him this way. 1, 2, 3. Now CJ must draw a cabin card. So we draw one, and it is a camper. It is Kimberly. So we're gonna put this in front of CJ. So we'll put Kimberly here in the care of CJ. Now when you have a camper in your care, they give you special abilities. Kimberly says, you may not be chosen for a fooling around activity. Fooling around is a mechanic that can happen in this game. It's a event that usually gets you in trouble. So if you draw a fooling around card, discard it and draw 1 survival card. Draw 1 less card when tempting fate. Tempting fate is another mechanic in this game, and you'll be drawing cards, and usually bad things will happen. So we want to avoid fooling around and tempting fate. So Kimberly protects us from that. Okay, now it's Tracy's turn. She has a movement of 3, and I think we're gonna make her try to get that objective all the way up there. So 1, 2, 3. Now we got to draw a cabin card. But before we draw that cabin card, Tracy is going to play a single-use card here. She has Search the Cabin. Play before your cabin draw phase. Draw and discard cabin cards until you find a weapon, item, or camper. This counts as your normal draw. Okay, so we discard the Search the Cabin, and we're going to draw and discard cards until we get a weapon, item, or camper. That is a plot twist. This is an item, a bandage. Any phase, heal 2 injuries may be used on yourself and or another counselor in your cabin. You may split the effects, discard after use. This will be very useful. So Tracy acquires a card, and since she's the last player of the round, it is now Otis's turn. Now he will stalk the players. Since this is the first time Otis is going to be appearing in this game, he always starts off in the tool shed. Now he will stalk towards the nearest character, counting by spaces. So right now Tracy is the nearest character. So if we count going this way, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to get to her. But going this way would be 1, 2, 3 spaces. So he'll opt to go that way. He always takes the shorter route. Now, using regular the nature trails like this are no problem to him. He can go through them. Now we have a locked token here. Now this locked token, normally characters cannot pass through there unless they have a key. Once they have a key, they can just touch that spot and get rid of it. Otis has no such problem. Whenever he comes across a lock, he destroys it, but then that stops his movement, so he'll end his turn right there. Now it's back to Karen's turn, and remember, she has 4 of movement that she can do. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go past this unrevealed objective token. We'll come back for it. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and with our 4th move, we will pick up these keys that are here. We'll put the keys here to show that she has them, and now Karen can unlock doors. Also, every single objective requires the keys. So now Karen must draw a cabin card. We draw it, and it is an Otis Strikes card. This means Otis is jumping out of nowhere and attacking Karen right where she's at. So Otis shows up over here to cause some trouble. So normally, unless a character has something equipped that specifically lets them fight, they automatically lose fights. So for instance, Tracy and CJ have absolutely nothing that will let them fight. But Karen does have something equipped. Let's take a closer look at it. Karen started off with a permanent attachment called Scrappy. And this one says, when fighting Otis, you may roll a d4 if you have no weapons equipped. So let's resolve that fight. Currently, Otis has an attack of a d4, so right now they are on equal footing, but that will definitely get worse later. So we're going to roll a d4 for Karen, and she rolls a 4. That's really great. Now let's roll for Otis. Now if he gets a 4, he wins on ties. So let's see. He got a 2. So Karen defeats Otis. When Otis is defeated, he is removed from the board, but he will definitely be back. So now it's CJ's turn. He's going to make his way from the girls' shower over to this bunny cabin to inspect this mystery objective here. Remember, he has a movement of 3, so we're going to go 1, 2. Now we have one more movement point available, and we could spend that point to reveal that token, but then it would cost another movement point in order to pick it up, and we don't have that extra point. So instead, we're just going to not do that. We're just going to leave it there, because what we can do is next we would have to draw a cabin card, and rather than drawing a cabin card, we can choose to reveal an objective instead of drawing a card. So we're going to do that. We're not going to draw the card, and we're going to reveal this objective instead. So this is happening during the cabin draw phase, and he found a survival token. This token we found lets us draw 1 survival card. So let's see what we got. Alright, we draw a survival card, and it is a single-use card. We thought you were dead. Play at any time. Choose. A dead counselor returns to play with 1 injury at the campfire, or a dead camper returns to your care. In either case, reduce the body count accordingly. Now this is nice, so we're gonna go put this with CJ's cards. This token is removed after resolved, so we don't get multiple uses out of it. Now it's Tracy's turn, and we're going to keep heading north, but because Otis broke this lock for us, we're going to go ahead and go down this way. So she has a movement of 3. 1, 2, 3, which puts us on an objective. And well, we're going to do the same thing that we did with CJ. Instead of drawing a cabin card, she's going to reveal this token. Let's see what it is. It is an objective card. It is a rope. And then at the very end of her turn, she can choose to get this card for free. So she will acquire this rope. The rope can be used towards the barn finale or the boat finale. Now it is back to Otis's turn. Now since he was removed from the board previously, we're going to have to figure out where he's going to come back. Now fortunately, the nature trails have numbers to them, so what we're going to do is we're going to roll this 10-sided die, and that's going to determine where he's going to start. After we place him, then he's going to stalk once more. So we're going to roll the die, and he comes up at 3. So the 3 is actually over here by Tracy, which sucks. And his stalk is 2, and she's the nearest one, so he's going to go right over to her space. Now, as soon as he goes into your space, he will attack you, so we have a fight on our hands. Since Tracy has nothing to defend herself with, she's automatically going to lose the fight. Now, right now, Otis only does 1 damage, so she's going to take 1 damage to her health. So now her health is there. Now if it reaches this skull, it means she dies. Now getting damage affects your movement, so now she can only move 2 spaces. If she gets hurt again, she can only move 1 space. And if she gets hit another time, she actually will suddenly be able to move 4 spaces because she gets a burst of adrenaline or something like that. But right now, she's can only move 2 spaces. Now also, when you're attacked and you lose, that's called panicking. When your character panics, they must immediately move the number of spaces equal to your panic number. So a panic number is 3. We must move that amount of spaces. So we're going to have her panic her way into the dining hall. And actually, I think we can reach to the kitchen here. So she must panic of 3. So 1, 2, 3. Now, that's not normal movement, so we can't do anything to reveal this just yet. But she's going to get a turn before Otis goes, so she should be able to try to reveal this and get out of there before he comes after her. I say should because you never know what happens. Okay, now that Otis is done with his shenanigans, it's back to Karen's turn. She has a movement of 4, but we're not going to need all of that. We're going to go 1, 2, and we're going to end our turn there because we want to reveal this during the draw a cabin card phase. Instead, we're going to reveal this token and see what it is. It is a crank. That is an objective item. She's going to acquire that. The crank can be used for either the boat or the ranger tower objective, but right now it looks like we have all 3 objective items for the boat finale. So Karen has the keys and the crank, and Tracy has the rope. Now, in order to attempt a finale, all three of those items need to go to the appropriate location. In order to attempt the boat finale, all the items must be brought to this location here. However, with Otis so close, that's going to be kind of tough. Now it's back to CJ's turn, and I'd like to move him this way, but there's a locked icon here, so we can't go there. So again, his movement is 3, so we'll go this way. 1, 2, 3, and he ends up in the beaver cabin. Now we're supposed to draw a cabin card here, but we're actually going to do something else. CJ's been holding on to this card since the beginning of the game. It's a single-use card called Survival Instincts. Play on your cabin draw phase. Draw 3 cabin cards. Choose which one you want to encounter and discard the other 2. So we're going to go ahead and play that now. So there's the Survival Instincts that lets us look at the top 3 cards, and we get to choose which one we want to encounter. Well, 2 of these are bad, but this one's the meat cleaver. It is a weapon, and it lets us roll a d6 plus 1. So we'll go ahead and encounter that, and the other 2 get discarded, which they're both bad. Any red cards like this are bad, so those go away, and he's just going to acquire this meat cleaver. We'll go ahead and equip this right here. So now it's Tracy's turn, but she's hurt. Ideally, we'd like to reveal and acquire this token here, this objective token, and then get out before Otis shows up, but we're not going to have enough movement. Now, Tracy does have the bandage item card that can let her heal to full, but even with 3 movement, she still won't be able to acquire the token and get out of there. So I think our best bet will be to let Tracy stay in the kitchen, acquire the item, and have her stay put there. On Otis's turn, he's going to move. He'll get right here to the dining hall. Then we can bring CJ around and try to distract them. Let's hope that works out. Alright, so Tracy has 2 movement. We'll use 1 to reveal this token. And, oh, it's a draw 1 survival card. So that goes away. And let's see what survival card we get. Alright, so she draws, what is that? A single use. Wait for me. Play at any time. Move to another counselor's space. Oh, that is so useful to get out of the predicament she's in. So Tracy still has 1 movement point left, and she could step over into the dining hall. However, Otis is going next, and he has a stalk of 2, which will put him to the same spot, and he'll attack her. So we don't want to do that. So she's not going to move, and she's going to stay there. But we must draw a cabin card. Okay, Tracy draws a cabin card, and it is a plot twist. Lost in the woods. Move to the woods. Follow the lost directions on your next turn. And funny, that's actually a picture of Tracy right there. So she must have found a back door to the kitchen and walked out, but got lost in the woods. So Tracy's going to go all the way up here to the woods, and on next turn she's going to roll a die and apply one of these effects here. Otis may strike, she may get an injury, or nothing can happen, and then she's going to return to a random nature trail. So now it's back to Otis's turn, but now nobody is nearby. The closest person is CJ, so he's going to go after him. If he goes around this way, it costs him 7 movement to get over to CJ. Going around by the 2 shed will take 5, so he'll go that way. So he only has a movement of 2 right now, so he goes 1, 2, and he ends up in the 2 shed. Alright, so now it's back to Karen's turn. We want to try to, now that we have all the items for the boat finale, we're going to try to make our way around to it, but we got to kind of go the long way to avoid Otis. So in the commons, you can actually move diagonally, and remember she has a movement of 4, so she's going to go 1, 2, 3, and she's going to attempt to use this nature trail over here to get across. To attempt to get across a nature trail, we must roll a d6. If we roll a 5 or 6, we cross normally. It costs 1 movement point to attempt this. If we roll a 1, we will become lost and will be put in the woods. And if we roll a 2 through 4, nothing happens and our movement just ends where we have thought. So we're going to roll the die and let's see what we get. We rolled a 2, which means we failed to get across, but nothing bad happens. We just end up stuck there at that same spot, and we have no more movement. If we have more movement, we could attempt again, but we have no more, so we're done there. Okay, Karen needs to draw a cabin card, and we draw another camper. This one is Angela. Angela can take care of herself as long as she has her special friend, Mr. Slicey. When Otis strikes, Angela may fight as a counselor would. Mr. Slicey rolls a d6. If Angela fights Otis and loses, she is discarded. Body count +1. So this camper is now equipped to Karen, and it's actually really nice because Karen has a special ability as a mentor. Campers in your care may re-roll their special skills once per turn, so she would actually get a re-roll on that combat, which is pretty nice. I just want to get a good close-up of the artwork on this card. She's got the knife behind her, and her flavor text there says, "Stranger danger, Mr. Slicey. Stranger danger." Alright, now it's CJ's turn. Now, we want to try to get to the boat area, but we need to lure Mr. Otis away. So, I think CJ is actually going to stay right here and try to get Mr. Otis to come to him. So, we're not going to move, and we're just going to go ahead and go to the draw cabin card phase. So, CJ draws a cabin card, and it is a cameo. It is Karen's boyfriend, Eddie. Every man for himself. Now give me those keys. Place Eddie on a random nature trail. He's going to stalk 2 and his target is keys. He's chasing after keys. If Eddie reaches a set of keys, the owner takes 1 injury. Then place the keys on the tool shed. Remove Eddie and a random finale deck from the game. If Otis cross paths with Eddie, Eddie is killed. Body count +1. Alright, so let's resolve this. Alright, so we need to roll a 10-sided die to see where he's going to appear, which nature trail. And we're going to get a 9, so that places him here right outside the girls' shower. What was he doing there? So we must put Eddie's card over by the character who drew him, so we'll just put him here for now, and he will stalk at the end of that player's turn. So it's at the end of CJ's turn, so he's gonna stalk right now. So he's gonna chase after whichever character has the keys, which is Karen right now, his girlfriend. So he's gonna stalk 2, so he's gonna go 1, 2, and he's still here in Morris's office, and he's just gonna keep chasing after Karen. Alright, now it's Tracy's turn. We need to find a way to get her out of the woods, so she needs to roll a d6, and we shall see what happens with that. She rolls a 1. Otis strikes, so he's gonna show up at the woods, and let's resolve that. Now, Tracy still does not have a weapon in order to fight Otis, but she does have one trick up her sleeve. She has a card called Gimme. It's a single use and play at any time. Take an item, weapon, objective, camper, or keys from another counselor. You do not have to be in the same space. So I think we're going to use this now in order to get a weapon from one of the other players. She's going to steal the meat cleaver from CJ, and now she has a weapon to use against Otis. Okay, so she has a d6 +1 versus Otis's d4. Otis hasn't gotten strong in it yet, so we're going to roll them both. Remember, the 6-sided die gets +1. Let's see who gets the higher number. Otis wins ties. She got a 4 +1, 5. Otis got a 3, so she wins against Otis, and he is removed from the board. Now that that is resolved, we're going to roll a d10 to see where she comes out of the woods at. She rolled an 8, so the 8 is actually right over here next to CJ. Now all of that was in place of Tracy's normal turn, so she doesn't get her normal movement or draw a cabin card this turn because she's actually not in a cabin right at the moment. Alright, it's back now to Otis's turn, so we're going to roll the 10-sided die, and let's see where he shows up. He shows up in space number 1. Alright, it's back to Karen's turn. She's going to keep trying to get across the trail. Remember, she has a movement of 4, so she's got a few attempts to try to make it, and we roll a 5. She makes it. You needed a 5 or 6, so that's 1 movement, 2, 3, 4. Alright, Karen draws a cabin card, And it is an item, a first aid kit. Any phase, heal 2 injuries from every counselor in your cabin. Discard after use. That's awesome. Alright, it's CJ's turn, and I think we're all just going to be trying to just rush to the boathouse. So he moves 3, 1, 2, 3, and we draw a cabin card. Alright, we draw a cabin card, and it is a plot twist. Treehouse of Horror. Roll a d4. You find that many dead campers inside. Raise the body count accordingly. You are horrified. So we'll roll that d4 right now. And we get a 2. So the body count goes up by 2. And now Otis gets a bonus to his attack. Otis's attack is now a d6. CJ is now horrified, so we'll put this token there to show that he is horrified, and now he has -1 to all his rolls until the end of his next turn. At the end of CJ's turn, Eddie is going to continue stalking Karen, so he moves 2, 1, 2. It's now Tracy's turn, and we're going to have her play the Wait For Me card. Play at any time, move to another counselor's space. So she plays the Wait For Me card in order to go all the way over to Karen's space. And then she does have 2 movement, normally 3, but she is hurt, so she's going to go 1, 2, and end her turn there and draw a cabin card. So she draws a cabin card, and it is a plot twist. Killer's Obsession. Place this card on your counselor card. The next time an Otis Strikes card is drawn, Otis strikes your space instead. If you survive the attack, draw a survival card and discard Killer's Obsession. Oh boy. Alright, now it's Otis's turn, and he always takes the shortest path to the nearest counselor. And technically, counting this way to Karen, it'll take him 4 spaces, but it'll actually take him 2 to get over to Tracy. And he does have a movement of 2, so he'll go 1, 2, and he attacks her location. Okay, so Tracy still does have the meat cleaver, so she rolls a d6 plus 1, and she rolls a 2, which is not good. And Otis's attack is a d6, so he has no bonus though. He just needs to beat a 2. He rolls a 5, so he has defeated her, and she panics. So since she lost, she takes a wound because Otis's damage is only 1, so she's dead. But she does have the bandage here, and I'm going to use it now. Heal 2 injuries may be used on yourself and or any other counselor in your cabin. Discard after use. So we'll use this to put her back to full health. However, since she is panicked, she must move or can move up to 3 spaces. So we're just going to use her panic to go ahead and get over to the spot where we want it to be. So in that last combat, I did forget that Tracy did have another +1 to her fight roll because she was in the same cabin with CJ. He gives a +1 to all counselors in his cabin. But she had rolled a 1, and so that would have been a total of 3, and Otis rolled a 5. So she still lost that anyway, but we got to remember that. Now, it is Karen's turn, so I think we're just going to have Karen just try to barrel into Otis and see if we can defeat him. So she has 4 movement, 1, 2, but once you cross paths with him, you must stop and you gotta fight him. So let's resolve that fight. Alright, so Karen does have Angela, who rolls a d6. So let's roll it. We can re-roll the result if we don't like it because of Karen's mentor ability. She rolls a 5. I think we're gonna keep that. So let's see what Otis gets. And he gets a 3. So Angela defeats Otis, and Otis is removed from the board. Alright, so even though Karen has more movement left over, that fight basically ended her turn, so she's going to have to draw a cabin card. Alright, and she draws a Otis special. I think he's dead. Place this card in front of Otis. The next time Otis is defeated in a fight, he remains on the board. Then discard this card. Alright, it's CJ's turn. He has a movement of 3. He's trying to make it to that boat. 1, 2, 3. Not far enough because he can get left behind, because basically the only characters that need to be there are the ones that have the actual objectives. So he may end up getting left behind. Let's see how it works out. Alright, he does still need to draw a cabin card. So we draw a pocket knife. It's a weapon. It's better than nothing. It's a D4. So, well, he gets that because somebody took his meat cleaver. Alright, Eddie over here continues to stalk Karen. So 1, 2. CJ Horrify token now goes away. Alright, it's back to Tracy's turn. She's in the right location, but she doesn't have all the items. Now, if she did have all the objective items, she could actually abandon the entire group and attempt the finale by herself. But she can't do that, so she's gonna stay there, not do any move, and just draw a cabin card. Let's see what she gets. A cameo. It is Detective Haddon. Place Haddon on a random nature trail. He will stalk 2. His target is Otis. If we cross paths with him, we'll take 1 injury. If Otis cross paths with Haddon, Haddon is killed and Otis is removed from the board. Body count +1. So let's figure out where he's at. Alright, so let's see where he shows up. We're going to roll a d10 for him. And he shows up at 10, which is over here by Morris's office. And then at the end of Tracy's turn, he stalks Otis for 2, but Otis isn't anywhere. So we're just going to leave him there for now. Alright, it is Otis's turn now. So let's see where Otis turns up. We roll an 8, which puts him over here by Eddie. So then he stalks up behind Eddie and kills him. The body count goes up by 1. Now Otis has killed 4 people and he gets a damage bonus. So now Otis does 2 damage when he attacks. Alright, it's now Karen's turn. She has 3 movement. We'll just use 2 to get over here. And we now have all the items here to start the finale. But we're not going to be jerks. We're going to wait for CJ to join us before we start it. We do need to draw a cabin card though. Alright, here we go. Oh, it's an Otis special, Bleed Out. Otis stabs you from the shadows and disappears. Remove Otis from the board. Place this card in front of you. At the end of your turn, roll a d4. On a 1, you receive 1 injury. Discard Bleed Out when you heal an injury. Oh, that's bad. And look at that artwork. Oh, we're just going to be bleeding to death here. Alright, so it is the end of Karen's turn, so we need to resolve this Bleed Out. Fortunately, I have a first aid kit here to get rid of it. So let's see what happens. We roll a 1, so she gets an injury, but we're going to go ahead and use the first aid kit. Heal 2 injuries from every counselor in your cabin. So that heals that, and Bleed Out goes away when you heal an injury. So at least we got rid of all that. Alright, now it's CJ's turn, so he's going to use all his movement of 3. 1, 2. And he can use his movement to activate the finale because all the objective items are there. So let's go to the boat finale. Alright, so here we have the boat finale. We flip this card over and it is Grizzly Falls. So now there's a number of steps that's going to happen. So let's zoom in on them and see what's going on. First, we need to do the tippy test. The rope carrier, which is Tracy, must roll a d10. If the total is less than the number of counselors and campers in the boat, discard campers and each counselor takes 1 injury. That's terrible. So we have 3 counselors and 2 campers. Let's roll the d10 and see what we get. We need a 5 or better. This is going to be tough to get. We rolled a 10, so everybody is safe. We passed the tippy test. Now we are going over the falls. Each counselor must roll a d6 and different things will happen. So let's do them in turn. Alright, so Karen's roll and she will get a 1. Otis pulls you over the falls, receive 3 injuries. 1, 2, 3. She just barely survived that. And now CJ, he will roll also a 1. Otis pulls you over the falls, receive 3 injuries. He was at 3, so 1, 2, 3. He also barely survives. And last is Tracy. She's going to roll a 4. Narrow escape. Take 1 injury. So she only gets 1 injury, but she gets away. And the last part is, if any counselors survive the falls, Otis crashes into the rocks below, but no body is ever recovered. The counselors who survived Grizzly Falls win the game. The end. Any counselors who missed the boat are never heard from again. That's why we didn't want to leave anyone behind. So that was Camp Grizzly. Now, bear in mind, that was probably the easiest victory I ever got in this game. I got a lot of lucky rolls, lucky things happen, but make no mistake, this game is brutally hard and it's gonna take teamwork to beat it, but it is lots of fun. And as you saw, that you don't go through you don't even go through half the decks through a playthrough most of the time, so there's usually new surprises every time. So if you like this game, if you like what you saw, go down in the description, you see a link to where you can find it, and please go down to the comments section and give me comments, give me feedback on what you think of how my playthrough was. Did I make any mistakes, and you know, anything else you want to say. So guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you soon.